that's been revealed when we walk in your lights. We walk in it.
Hello, and welcome to The Torch. Today we're going to talk about why vote. Why wouldn't you vote?
Well, why wouldn't you vote? Well, I guess if you're really busy, with the kids' baseball games and grocery shopping and work and stuff like that, I mean, it's a pretty busy life to stop and have to go vote, right?
Well, they give you extra days before the actual primary voting is done. I mean, you've got plenty of days in there before when it's not quite so busy.
So why wouldn't you vote, or why would you vote?
Well, that too. Why would you vote?
Why would you vote?
Well, if you don't vote, you're only bowing to the very people you disagree with.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice in the government at all.
I thought that I heard that somewhere too. People that don't vote, they sit there and gripe and complain. It's like, well, if you didn't vote, you really don't have a say, right?
Right.
Because you were absentee employer.
And another really big reason is if you don't vote, you might find yourself losing some of these beautiful freedoms you currently take for granted.
You know what? Have you also heard that that elections have consequences?
Yes.
By the way, this is Miss Pat.
Oh, I didn't introduce us, did I?
I'm Kevin, and Miss Pat's the host of The Torch.
But she doesn't remember her name.
But that's okay. We're here. I think we were so gun-ho about getting started, we needed to just jump right in there and get to the meat, with no time for vegetables and things. So, but if what was that last statement? If, elections have consequences, so it seemed like it would be a really good idea, and especially a constitutional republic like we are, to exercise your...
And it's your responsibility as a citizen of this country. How do you define a citizen?
Well, I think a citizen of this country or any country.
This country.
I think as long as...
A citizen can vote.
A citizen can vote.
It's their responsibility to vote.
Yes.
But what makes them eligible to vote?
I guess as long as they get here on the American soil, by any means possible, as long as they're standing on American soil, that makes them a citizen, I would think.
No.
No?
No.
And of course, I'm just joking about that. I do know these things, but what do you mean, no? That just because you got here, you're not a citizen?
You got here, no, you're not a citizen. You have to go through a lot to become a citizen in this country. It's about a 5-year process, from what I understand.
So there actually is a process to become a United States citizen?
Yes.
Why do you think that they do that? Why do you think, not 5 years, but why would you have a process to vet a person coming in who wasn't born here?
You just answered it.
To
vet them.
Oh, to vet them. Oh, good. Man, I'm very smart on this one. What is vetting?
Actually, it gives them time to learn about this country. Mm-hmm. They have to learn the Constitution, which we don't even teach it in our schools anymore.
So a person that's coming over, let's say from France, they want to become an American citizen. They want to leave their home country, or I guess it's not their home country anymore, and come over here. There's a process of actually not just moving over, flying over, and planting your backside on our soil. You can do that. I mean, you can come over physically, but to actually be a member of this society, there is a process.
Yes, and they have to come into this society, into this country, legally.
Legally.
They have to have their passport and everything in place. Or they can be born in this country. If you're born in this country, you were born in this country. I was. But
you would have been born into the culture of this country.
Yes. Yes.
So somebody else who's not born in this culture, who might like the rules of their previous country, might want to come over here and change what we have through nefarious means.
Right, and that's part of the whole thing. It wouldn't be very wise of this country to let a serial killer come into this country.
Probably not a good idea. No, we don't offer probably citizenship to known serial killers. You wouldn't think. So, there actual is there laws been passed about the process
The
of
process is
becoming a citizen?
the process is all laid out. In order to be a citizen of this country, you either have to be born here, you have to be a naturalized citizen. That means you've gone through this process, and you have to spend, I forget how many years in this country.
Hmm.
And you have to go to school and learn about this country, learn the Constitution, learn its laws. And in order to vote, you have to be 18,
Mm-hmm.
18 years of age.
Hmm.
And so it's not that hard, other than immigrants coming into this country. You know, they have this process that they have to go through. Oh,
And everybody probably, when they say, like everybody that's here, every line of people that's here, not line as in numbers, but like bloodline, or came from somewhere else. Even they say we all know this, the indigenous people, which also known as Indians, there really is no indigenous people because they all came from somewhere. They weren't just created here on the soil. We're created over in the garden, right?
The indigenous people who were here when the Pilgrims landed, well,
they came from somewhere else too.
They came from somewhere else too, but they were the actual people who lived here, and they didn't have to jump through all the hoops.
Right. So, but when the founding fathers got together and said, "Hey, Kate, we're gonna set up this country. Let's put some rules into place so that we can preserve the culture of this. Like, it's not just everything flies here. I wouldn't think
The culture of this country, the freedoms. We have a lot of liberties that other countries do not have, and that's something that we need to protect. And how do we do that? Part of it is to vote.
So we're back around to vote. Nice. You segued right back in it. I mean, you couldn't have got more perfect than that. So continuing on with when did we ever say the title of today's message?
Yes, I said why vote.
Oh, yes, of course. Not that you're asking me a question, so that's the actual title.
Question I asked you.
Okay, so why vote?
I asked you why not.
Yeah.
So now we got him back on track.
Okay, we came all the way back around here. Okay.
Probably the next problem is that people say, well, I don't know who to vote for. It's a waste of time to go up there anyway. They're just going to not count my vote.
Well,
I've been told that.
And unfortunately, some of that has become true because of the machines.
Yes. But at that point, we can't just stop.
No.
We have to, move forward, and
we go forward and we try to get where we can people in the office that there's not a rigging going on.
Exactly.
And they can make the changes while they're there, and it kind of cascades to the rest of the country. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was another little rabbit trail, but people have said that. It's like, well, my vote doesn't count. Well, actually, your vote does count if it's counted.
It doesn't matter if it's your one vote. It's his one vote. It's my one vote. Mm-hmm. You put all these one votes together, and what have you got? Mm-hmm. And so you can't just sit back and on the couch and watch soap operas or whatever you watch.
When we were at this last political event, we talked to somebody who was a local elected official. Not a state official, but a local official from a city that was here. And people don't realize that how important even like the city councils or the city elected officials, because, we hear there's already some socialistic kind of views within the cities.
Yes.
It starts as a little breach in the dam, just a little tiny crack in the dam within the cities or townships and stuff. We always look at the federal side, president, vice president, state, like U.S. Congress, and then maybe look at the state side too. But where you live, your own ordinances for your city have to do with your current.
Yes. And that includes school boards.
School boards, yes.
Mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. What are your kids being taught? There's a lot that you can learn by going to school board meetings. I know it's a hassle. You work all day. You don't want to do it. But what about your kids' future? What are they being taught? And, there's some ways that you could check out these candidates. But before we go into that, there's a couple of definitions
Okay.
that I think we need to clarify here because it's coming up a lot. And one of them is original intent. Do you know what original intent is?
Original intent. Original intent. Should I give the answer, or are you asking me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So original intent is not what somebody else thinks the answer is or whatnot. You have to go back to the person that was giving the answer. Like, for instance, if somebody asked Grandpa this about a certain thing, and Grandpa wrote it down in a letter to Grandma, I could say, well, he just meant this. But if you have the letter, you can look at the letter to Grandma and Grandpa, and you can see what he said to her verbatim. That would have been his original intent. That was the intent of the answers. Is that a good analogy?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that's what we're talking about is the original intent of the founders. The Constitution should be interpreted as written according to the intent of the founders.
Okay, say that again, because that's a good one, and it's a tongue twister, but it actually sounds. I mean, it's perfect.
The Constitution should be interpreted as written according to the intent of the founders.
So the founders did not. They did not really give. Not permission. They didn't really intend to give the courts, the Supreme Court, if it was like the words exactly what was said, that is the intent. Not we found new rights within this. That if you just read the words, what do you see?
Well, the Constitution wasn't. It wasn't intended that the Constitution is a legal document.
Yes.
You buy your house.
Mm-hmm.
You sign a contract.
Yes.
You buy a car. You sign a contract.
You sign a contract.
Anything you do, well, not anything, but a lot of things that you do are driven by a legal document of some kind. Well, the Constitution is the law of the land, and the only way to change it is with amendments.
With amendments. So you can change the Constitution.
You can change the Constitution, but it has to be done through the right channels, through the legislator and all this, and so that everybody is in agreement to that change. There's a lot of amendments that have been put in there that have changed the Constitution beyond what their original intent was. But there are also a lot of people that are conveniently changing the wording for their own benefit.
That are not they're doing that not by the process to amend the legal document. Can you, once you sign a legal document, are you able to go in there and scratch out some things that you don't agree after that point?
No, no, you can't do that. It's a legal document, and when you bought your house and you signed the document, all of a sudden you decided, oh, I wanted it this way.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't do that.
I had an awful time one time. There was another ministry that donated a bus to our ministry. Okay, and the CEO or the person that was in charge of that ministry was needing us to come over there and to sign the title and stuff over. So we went over there, and during the process of signing the title, the person accidentally wrote on the wrong line the wrong date. And it was like, uh-oh. So we took it down to get it transferred over, and they wouldn't accept it because it was the tiniest little mistake on that title to that vehicle, where on that there is no scratch outs and initials and new date. We had to go through a process of getting a letter and all of that from that CEO. He knew that it was probably going to be a problem to go and get a reissued of a title, then to take it back over there and get it signed again. Because it was considered, and how much more is the Constitution of this great land, much more important than a title for an old bus that.
Well, that takes us to the next definition.
Yes.
Do you know what a living constitution is?
A living constitution. Maybe people at home would like to chat in or to maybe comment. Does anybody at home, or not home, if you're watching on here, on any other platform that you can, what is a living constitution? And
these two terms have been popping up all over recently.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not recently, but they've probably been out there all the time, but they've been used a lot.
What is a living constitution?
A living constitution, the meaning of the Constitution changes and evolves with time.
Yeah, I wonder if that doesn't sound like a good thing.
It doesn't. There you go again, what we were just talking about.
What's that?
The Constitution is the law of the land. It's legal.
Yeah.
The only way to change it is not through evolution, but through amendments.
A process of legal amendment.
A process of legal amendments. Senator Rand Paul, and I'm going to read this to you.
Yeah, it's really good.
Senator Rand Paul recently made this statement. The founders never intended for Americans to trust our government. Our entire Constitution was predicated on the notion that government was a necessary evil to be restrained and minimized as much as possible.
And that's, I'm going to edit this. I'm going to make sure that's written on there, because that absolutely, I mean, these are the people that sat down and put this thing together. The original intent of their country. They sat down and they put it together. They already knew in the future how things progress. You know, can we take not one more rabbit trail? We got a little bit of time. Can we take a rabbit trail?
Sure.
Like when you go to a city, we've noticed this, like when you go to basically any town that's been around, like, you know, most of the towns we go into were like, you know, established in 1852, you know, or 1899, like a lot of the 1800s. Why is it that the longer a town is in existence, does parts of the town who were very affluent parts of town, very upscale, very nice family communities, as time goes on, they become the slums, or they
deteriorate.
They deteriorate, and then the new places that are being built become the more hot spots. You know, I know that a lot of cities have like a revitalization of downtown places. Why is it that over the course of time, things tend to deteriorate without a determined purpose to keep things fresh for like a Christian life? Since we're on the Live Media Network and Church Live, a Christian or a person who, like a baby, they get born, they grow up, they become a teenager, they become an adult, and they go without Jesus in their life. Would they get better, or would they have an opportunity to deteriorate into more and more junk?
Probably the opportunity to deteriorate.
So, and that's a person, but when you look at a city, you see as things go on, if the city is not maintained with a good moral compass within the government of the city, and things just kind of like, in neighborhoods and things, they kind of deteriorate, not because the stuff is old, but because the people deteriorate, and then that parts deteriorate, and then you get people that, this with Ron Paul here, they knew that this new, fresh, brand new thing had an opportunity to deteriorate if people did not follow it and maintain it. Like as a Christian, we have to pray. Do you have to pray every day?
Oh, yes.
If you did not pray ever and read your Bible ever, or go to church ever or think about God ever, would you stay strong in the Lord?
Oh, no, it would be like I didn't know him.
So you have to maintain this.
A lot of this comes from environment.
Mm-hmm. Not the sunshine and
No,
clouds.
no, the home environment.
Mm-hmm.
As using the city or the section of the city that deteriorates, the people who originally lived in those homes have moved on or passed away or whatever, and maybe their children didn't want the house,
Mm-hmm.
so it was just a kind of a problem for them, so they sold it for less than what it was probably worth.
Mm-hmm.
And which, not to speak against people, but people through their environment can pull things down, and if they haven't been raised in a Christian environment,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know God. Now, in defense of a lot of people, though, there are some people who maybe don't know God, but they are good, upstanding people.
Not trying to cause a problem, but
No.
do you feel like that more people that don't know God and they don't have His Spirit in their heart, more people that don't have God in their heart might tend to be a little bit more just I don't care attitude about morality?
Yeah, because like I said, it depends upon the environment that they were raised in,
Yeah.
how their parents felt. Maybe their parents did know God, but the kids didn't want to accept that because of a lot of things. Peer pressure is a major issue with families. So it's I think Mr. Paul, or Senator Paul, I should call him, kind of nailed it here as to what's going on.
And it ties it together because they this is a brand new baby that the founding fathers were handing off. Wasn't Benjamin Franklin the one that said when they came out of the meeting, I guess after it was all signed, and Mr. Franklin, what'd you give us? We gave you a republic if you can keep it.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that, a quote. And they already
Yes.
knew 200 years ago.
Yes, it was. I think it was him. I can't remember who it was now, but it is a quote, and that's verbatim, but it's pretty close to what he said. Yeah, if you can keep it. And so right now, that's the question: can we keep it?
And the part of this episode is one of the ways that we could keep this.
By voting, back to back to back. We go to voting again.
Back to voting.
Back to voting. So, okay. So, what started this whole conversation was, I said there are ways you can research your candidates, but I wanted to give you the two definitions before we went any further, and that's mainly what we're going to cover from this point on is how you can research your candidates. Now, I think you will find that if you, if you get up and start checking it out, you can go and you can talk to your candidates. They will talk to you, especially right now.
Right now, yeah, they're very accessible right now.
They're very accessible right now. And I'm going to just give you an example of some of the questions that you might ask. And maybe you want to try to answer these.
Okay, we'll do.
Do you believe you're a candidate now?
I would be a candidate. Okay, so I'm running for office. Okay.
Do you believe our Constitution is a living document?
No, I do not believe it's a living document. I believe it is a legal document. And it is what it is, as intended, unless the lawmakers amend the Constitution.
Exactly. How about what is the purpose of civil government?
The purpose of civil government is to collect taxes and to live in a big house and to tell people their dog is barking too much. And I think civil government is there to protect life and liberty in the pursuit of happiness.
Yes. As a matter of fact, everybody in government, the military, and I'm talking federal, state, local levels, and the military, and probably a lot of other people that I don't think of, take an oath before they go into office. And I'm going to read that oath to you.
Please.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President. This is for the President.
Sure.
Of President of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Should they put on there as written?
Probably so. But that is the oath that they take. So that answers that question. And if they can't answer that question that way, or in a way that is satisfactory to you, then, should you vote for them?
So taking an oath is a pretty big deal before the people, but there's somebody else that's a little higher up that really looks at oaths and affirmations as a pretty big deal.
I think we call him God.
Yeah. So we're not supposed to actually take an oath or affirmation, something like that, unless you really mean it.
Unless you know what it means.
Right.
And
if you don't, you shouldn't.
If you don't, you shouldn't be doing that. And if you, I might have to say this, if you do not know what is in the Constitution, what your rights are, then you shouldn't be taking that oath. How can you uphold something that you don't know what it is?
Ms. Pat, that's a very, very important question, important statement that I think people that are watching would really kind of wrap their head around. It's like, yeah, right. I mean, not yeah, right, but right. Why, how can you swear to something or affirm something if you don't even know what the legal, I mean, it's like, hurry up and give me the papers. And they hurry up and sign the card note. And I just saw this on an investment video that I was watching. There was a person who had a $3,000 truck payment on one of those super giant, not like a regular truck, like a regular, but the big ones, the big, you see them hot rodding down the road. They're jacked up. They probably got the diesel engine. They're always the one that are right on your tail and want to run around you. $3,000 for 96 months, and they were talking about how ludicrous that is for somebody who can't afford it to spend $3,000 a month because the vehicle prices. Like you look at we bought used on our vehicle, and you would never have thought it was as old as it is because it's in good shape. But if you bought one of those new, they're over like 60, 70,000, But we didn't pay that,
100,000. Trust me, I've been looking at cars.
for a vehicle, for something to just get you to point A to point B. I understand the whole don't want to break down scenario, but with cell phones and AAA now, not even a problem. But the person, I don't know, did they actually did they understand how long 96 months is at $3,000 a month? If you can afford it, you can just pay cash for it and be done with it. But they were talking about, it's probably not the best investment opportunity if you're trying to save money.
And the interest rate must be phenomenal on that.
Right. So back to this thing it's like here, just give me let me just sign. I swear, whatever the thing is, I promise, so solemnly promise to, and they don't even know what it says. How can you do that?
The young people going into the military now, they don't teach the Constitution in school anymore. Mm-hmm. So they don't even know what they're swearing to.
But they're bound.
They're bound by that.
They're bound by that. Isn't there some scriptures that have some stories about one of the kings or I'm trying to think who that, he made an oath about, I'm going to give you the next person that walks out that door, and it turned out to be his daughter.
Yes.
Oh, it was awful. For that person too. Yeah, anyway, but it's not something to trifle with.
No, it's not. And here's another one you can ask them. Do you believe the Bible has a proper role in the formulation of law and policy? If so, how? Now you're a minister. Mm-hmm. Think about that one and that. of course, these people aren't necessarily going to be ministers
No.
asking this guy this, but this will give them an idea
Mm-hmm.
of what they should be thinking as he's answering them.
Well, if I'm the candidate, and of course, let's say I'm not. Well, I am a minister, so. But if you weren't, and you're fixing to, if you win, you're fixing to, you know, take an oath of office to a nation whose Christian values are the underpinning of this. You would think that biblical values would change, because the Constitution is not a living document. It is what it is, and you can trace it back to there. So if we keep it exactly the same, you're swearing allegiance to the God of the Bible. Really, I mean, you're not just to God. I mean, you're saying, because he's, you look at the documents, and they all have him as the law of nature. Nature's God. So
It's all in the Constitution that it is it's biblical, and your voting should be biblical.
your voting should be visible.
If you're a Christian. This last question here and there's more questions that you can ask. I've got pages and pages of questions that you can ask.
Yeah, like what are you going to do about the border? What are you going to do about
And
lots of different things,
and,
guns and stuff.
Yeah, and I'll go into that in just a little bit. But this one here goes back to the original intent of the framers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe the Constitution should be construed according to the intent of the framers? And I think we pretty well answered that one.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I am going to read a portion of the Gettysburg Address. And once I read it, I think you'll understand why. I'm reading it. It is rather for us, this is the last portion of it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth. And I think that, in my mind, that says what we should be thinking right now. And that, they were talking about Gettysburg and the people who died at Gettysburg. But think of all the military who have died in foreign countries to maintain the freedom of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And we forget that, I think.
Well, there's quite a few people, unfortunately, many younger people, that it doesn't mean anything. So what? That there's a graveyard over in Washington with rows upon rows upon rows. I mean, how many thousands of tombstones are there of people that served in one capacity or another? Well, we just don't need the Constitution anymore. Their lives didn't matter at all.
Their lives didn't matter at all, And that's not the only cemetery. My husband is one up around Grand Prairie.
Right.
And they're scattered all over this nation.
Right.
Not
just in one place. Yeah. Right. But, yeah, absolutely.
My uncle was killed in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
His body is in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's bunches of them. And the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of people have died for the freedom of this country.
Mm-hmm. Including the founders back then in that time frame against the British.
Yes.
Trying to make what we enjoy today. The birthing of what we enjoy today were these people that didn't have technologies like we did. It was a harsh.
Well, there's a video about what happened to the founders.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of those founders, who some of them were very wealthy men,
mm-hmm.
died destitute. They
gave it all.
They gave it all. They lost their families, and they lost their homes. They lost the money. It was all gone. And
now we got a bunch of people that can't even pay their student loan back. Did you hear all that? It's like, you don't have the real constitutional authority to do that, I don't think. No. You're just trying to buy votes, I think.
Yeah.
It's like it's you now your problem, Miss Pat. You're going to pay for all those people's things that you never even agreed to, or
And something that I never got to do.
yeah, just get your checkbook out and start writing checks.
Yeah.
I
Might as
mean,
well.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like-
mean, we're all in the same boat. You know, they just keep at it.
That's not a pet peeve or anything of mine. It's just
Just
it's,
an observation.
yeah. If you want to go to school. Go to school. You know what
More
you
power to you. If you want to go to school, great.
right, but that doesn't mean that there's that is not my responsibility to pay for your school. And, you want another rabbit trail? When I look on our tax bill for the year for where we live, there's all this line item taxes for the community college. I don't have anybody that goes over there. Why am I subsidizing? That's just the way I look at it. If you want to go, work a second job and go and make you a better person.
Well, that's what a lot of us did.
Right, right,
My mom and dad couldn't afford to send me to school.
right. And I'm not talking about the public. I'm just talking about like the community college. You're
Yeah.
you're a grown adult. Why are we subsidizing that? I don't.
You know.
That's not. I don't think that's the original intent.
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, we're back to the Gaddis School. Gaddis School?
Well, no, we're gonna switch.
Okay, Gaddis Burke.
Another subject.
What's the, oh, we have another subject. We're getting a bonus time today.
We are?
Are we? You got another question?
Yeah, I got another question.
Okay, bonus time.
Do you think the church is the sleeping giant of America with huge numbers of people who need to be taught the biblical principles of government?
I do. I think that's why they're trying to shut down the Christian community in a lot of ways. From, when the pandemic came, they were real quick about shutting down the churches. They were probably gleeful that they could shut down those gatherings of all the Christians and sue them if they got together and worshiped the Lord and took lives in their own hands to gather together. How dare they want to live making their own choices? But there are powers out there that have no use for you and I, the church, or anything else. So ways to try to take that ability to gather is always people don't think that. I mean, the church in China is the fastest growing church on earth, and they're not meeting in buildings. They're the sleeping under the ground giant. Here in this country, we still can gather and still can be involved. And I'm wondering if those in China, those people that with the underground churches, if they had an opportunity to be politically involved to change their landscaping, I bet they would. Here, it's the opposite. We're openly worshiping, openly being able to gather currently, and asleep at the wheel when it comes to politics. It's like politics have no use inside the church, which is false.
Yeah, and there's a lot of scripture. And unfortunately, I forgot my notes on that part of it.
But that'll be next week.
That'll
Maybe
be
you can bring
next week
something.
because I've got a whole lot more to cover than what we have time for today.
Right.
But there's a whole lot of scripture in the Bible where God told Moses, I think it was Moses, to appoint leaders over groups of thousands and
Hundreds and tens.
tens and so forth.
Excuse me.
That came from God. That didn't come from Moses. He
And Moses represents the courts of heaven.
yeah, and
So he's
so that's what he did because it took the load off of him, and that's what government is about. It's about the people.
who's the king? Who's the king?
God.
Okay. He's not involved. Who's the head of the church?
God.
So Jesus is not only the king, but Jesus is also the head of the church. So Jesus is the king of what? The church? Or everything?
Everything.
Looks like he's involved.
I saw a video last week. The guy was talking about heaven invading earth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Come on.
and he was pointing out that
Oh, excuse me.
the whole idea of heaven. Well, what he was pointing out was the fact that churches are changing. The mega churches are deteriorating. Is not the right word. They're becoming less and less, and small churches and home churches are becoming very prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got your in the churches, not the mega churches, but in the the regular sized churches, you've got your core group of people
Mm-hmm.
who are there for prayer and whatever else is going on. It may be a dozen, it may be a half a dozen, it may be, depending on the size of the church, it may be just a couple of people.
Right.
But he was pointing that out and stressing that, and I think people are losing sight of what the church is there for. The church is there to be a mediator between God and earth and country.
It's a modern day ark.
Yeah, exactly.
And Pat knows this. We, my wife and I, we come out of mega church. The church that we went on staff with is probably over 10,000 people now. At the time, it was many thousands of people, and the one after that was about 500, and that's a pretty big church in today's, in a lot of circles. So we got trained in that. And so there are some good ones out there, but there's also some, unfortunately, that maybe for the show, it's the show, and I am not knocking it, because we were trained underneath that. And when we look at before I was on staff, we were one of those core people. We showed up at everything, and that's what the senior pastor says. When he puts somebody in leadership, he's not going to go track somebody down to put them in leadership. He's gonna pick people that he sees when the doors are open and we're setting up and tearing down, or when we're doing this, or when we're volunteering for that. Those are the people that have a desire and interest in the fruitfulness of the church, and those are the people. And of course, we were saw all the time, and of course, being new to the Lord, not new to the Lord, newly rededicating. So, but over the course of these 20 years now that we've been in ministry, wait a minute, 2003. So yeah, that's about 20. There is a shift, and right now, according to what the Lord is saying, we have already, it's not we are at some point, we already have switched over and stepped over into the time frame on God's holy timeline of the new era of the church. What is the new era of the church? It is almost not a return to, how we lived in the book of Acts, as far as, we didn't have any modern conveniences and things like that. We were living in a modern world, but yet, if you take a look at some of what, how the church was birthed and what they did at the very beginning, and that a lot of it is a return to more of a family atmosphere of vision for individual people's lives, not so much keeping of the building, the maintenance of the building, maintenance of that. It's about maintenance of the lives of the people that are involved. Does that make sense? It's a difference between spending all your resources and maintaining the campus. And I do believe the Lord is granting us some recording studios and places where people can come and be a part of all that. But that's not the emphasis. Even now, I've shared that the Sunday church is still going to be within the homes, because I feel like that's what the Lord is telling us. There's something dynamic that is so different about not just going to the stage, but going to a place of actual talking with people and ministry and that kind of stuff. And so, it's still the show here for a moment, but there is a new dynamic that the Lord is bringing. If you want to know a little bit more about that, there's going to be mega churches.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be, like within giant cities, there's huge hospitals, and they have, you know, they're caring for a huge population. But there's a lot of very small hospitals that do a really good job. I mean, Misty was, when we were on vacation a while back, we were out of town, and she had an episode where we had to go to the emergency room of that little town. It's a little place, and they were very good. There was no quality of care problems, but you know, there wasn't a lack of care, help, emergency care, which turns out to be not. I mean, it wasn't as emergency as it looked like, but like you got your home church campuses, and then you got your mega ones. But I think there's definitely a change. So
Yeah,
you know that.
Yeah, it's I can see the difference, you know. I've lived all over this country, and each time we made a move, which was frequent, we would always try to find a church. And we always had difficulty finding a church because they were big, and they were not very welcoming.
Which is crazy to me. That is crazy.
You know, they may start out welcoming, but then, oh, well, they're back here a second time. Oh, they're back a third time. And all of a sudden, you're not in one of their, for lack of a better word, cliques. And consequently, we really didn't go to church that much. We felt closer to God flying around in an airplane or going up off-roading in the mountains.
You probably really needed to be closer to God if you're out flying on the little airplane. It's like, I'm going to pray a little bit deeper when we go. So that's good, right?
Yeah.
And you were a little higher, too, anyway. So.
And you know, we were closer to God, though.
Yeah, well, you were definitely. You were a little bit. You know.
But moving on to, there's a lot of things you can do. You can, for one thing, you can speak to your pastor or civic leaders. We offer a one-day seminar, which gives you the basis of the Constitution and what it stands for. And it's called Our American Christian Heritage is what it's called. And we gladly go and do that seminar. It's about, depending on how many rabbit trails he gets off on, it can run 8 hours or 9 hours.
It's really a 2-hour class, but it can run 8 hours. Yeah, I'm kidding, but.
No, it's a set of four different videos. It can be broken down into 4 actual classes if we wanted to do it.
And it's really good, and it's well worth the time.
Yeah, it's worth the time, and the only cost to anybody who attends is for their lunch and for the student manual. They can buy a full kit if they want to, but it's kind of pricey.
And depending on how far travel, there might be a little tiny travel expense for the.
You can also work with your state and local or national organizations that hold a constitutional position on issues, not just conservative opinions, but everybody's opinion. And hey, here's a good one. You can consider running for office yourself.
Who?
At the local level.
You?
No, me. No.
Well, we're doing what God's called us to do right now.
Yes, he put me here, and I said, "You really don't want me to do this, do you?" And he said, "Yes." So
we're doing our part to play, but somebody else might not be wanting to do this. They might be actually the candidate that God's saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, there's all sorts of places, all sorts of
places to serve.
Places to serve. Thank you.
Yep.
The school board, city council, just to name a couple. You know, it's not that hard, really. You just have to be there a lot. If you don't like that, you probably wouldn't make a very good candidate. But in order to find out who your candidates are and find out about them, there are several voter guides that you can go to. One of them, they are partners with the American Family Association, and it's called iVoterGuide.com. There's one for Catholics, Catholic vote. What's it called? CatholicVote.org. There's also a Christian one, and it's ChristianVoterGuide.com. And then there's one that's is a public service of the American Policy Roundtable, which I'm not familiar with. It's iVoters.com. And that supplies you iVoterGuide.com, iVoterGuide.com, I should say. You can get information like the platform of the Democratic and Republican Party, and you can sit there and compare what their platform is. Life and abortion, marriage and family, education, Second Amendment, support for Israel, climate change, environmental policy, religious freedom. It compares the platforms.
And that matters.
And that matters because these people who are running for office usually, and here's something you should know, they will usually, that will usually be their platform also. But sometimes the candidate may be running on one of the Republican or Democratic platforms, but he's veering off to his own platform. And you need to know that because his own platform may not fit with your thinking on different subjects.
They call themselves something, but they're actually not that at all.
Right. So, that's something that you need to find out before you go and vote.
How can somebody weed out somebody like that with these voter guides? The voter guides help kind of weed out by how?
I'll give you information on iVoter Guide. It's the one that I use the most. The others are very similar. The others are very similar. But if you go into iVoterGuide.com and you put in the address that's on your voter registration card, it will pull up your ballot for this for here in Texas, the primary. We've got a primary coming up on the 5th of March. And it will pull up that ballot. And when I go in there and look, the first pictures I see are Biden and Trump. And then it goes into the senators and anybody else who is up for re-election and the people who are running against them. So you can go in and you're going to find that most of them do not. There's a big, long questionnaire that they have to fill out.
Questionnaire, yeah.
And you're going to find that most of them who are incumbents or they're in the federal portion of the government, they don't fill out the questionnaire. But there's still a lot of information there to help you make that decision. And you get down into the state and local segment, they're more inclined to fill out the questionnaire. You can also go to iVoterGuide.com and find all these questions that you can ask the candidates. This one here is for congressional candidates. And there's one for just about every segment. The one I picked up was congressional candidates. You can also go in there and get tips on researching your candidates.
So do you think that a lot of times the scripture says you'll know them by their fruits. So what would be a fruit for a candidate that's been in office for a while? Would there be a track record of voting that they've voted on while they were in office?
That's the next thing you can get. It's not necessarily always on the iVoter Guide, but it is. There's a whole list of, and mine is not complete yet because I know I'm missing at least one that I wanted on there. You can get congressional voting records by going to things like clerk.house.gov. There's also one called govtrack.us. There's the senate.gov and congress.gov. And you've got to play with it a little bit to really dig deep. You can also go in there and find out if there's a certain issue or certain thing that you think that they might be voting on, you can go in there and you can find it. Like like one of them is an HR, and then it has a number behind it, which is the House of Representatives. What's going on in the House? And there's all sorts of information in there. It takes a little bit of time, but you start digging into it, and you may get addicted to it. It's more interesting than Facebook, I'll tell you that much. And but these are a lot of, and in this next session, we're going to cover a lot more information like that for you. There are excerpts from sample letters to elected officials. And
Just tons of resources there.
there's tons of resources that you can check it out, and you can go directly to your candidate and question him. I believe somebody in the church wrote a letter to our U.S. Senator, and he detailed out, and that's the main thing. You need to be concise about what you're asking. You need to detail it out with bullet points and the whole works, and you can ask him questions, and he answered in great detail each of the questions that was asked. So, they will answer you, and especially if they're up for re-election.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, Miss Pat, we're about out of time already. Can you believe how fast this has gone by?
I thought maybe we were getting pretty close.
Did you? I don't know. Didn't know if you could see the.
No, I can't see it.
Yeah. So, as usual, there is much more content than time allows.
Yes.
Are we going to be back again?
Yes, we're going to be back again.
Okay. What are you thinking about the next show? What can the people look forward to about the kind of the ballpark angle?
Yeah, it's going to be a continuation of this. We're going to go into more detail, like about letters that you can write, about how you can contact, or how you can find out how to contact. I can tell you how to contact the different state legislators here in Texas and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, we've met some of them, and they have all sorts of rallies and stuff going on that you can attend. You can go down to their offices and knock on their door.
Yeah.
And
for the county, like the county level is what we were able to go see.
The one we did were the county at this point. But there's others. The city. You've got city stuff going on. You've got judges who are up for election. Check out those judges, because they usually answer the questionnaires, and they will certainly answer a lot of your questions about what that judge stands for.
And the judicial, which was supposed to be the least most powerful branch of the government, it's changing. So good, the judges that can interpret the law as written, or the Constitution as written, are probably your better friend for America. I mean, your better friend for a constitutional republic like us, because they're not wanting to get crazy, because there's some crazy judgments that came out the last couple of weeks for certain high-level political officials that were absolutely, I think, unconstitutional. But
the Supreme Court of the U.S. is a little different. It's a little bit harder because they're not elected.
Right, appointed.
They're appointed, but the judges at the state level are elected judges.
Well, a lot of stuff. It's not just the top down. It is the grassroots. A lot of changes can happen because of the grassroots movement within townships, then the county, then the state. You know what I mean? So, anyway, any final? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I found this neat little statement here, and I thought it kind of was a good closing statement.
Okay.
It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. That's a quote of Samuel Adams. So that's you. All of us.
Brush fire. Yeah.
A tireless majority setting brush fires of freedom in people's minds. But be prepared to answer their questions.
Yeah.
And don't give your opinion. Don't give somebody else's opinion. Go back and research it. You've got the Federalist Papers. You've got all sorts of information. And if you don't have enough, contact us and we'll get you some more.
Absolutely. I think that's a great ending point, too. If you need information, you can contact us through various points across these platforms. You can also contact Miss Pat directly at
PSUND. That's PSUND at
thechurchalive.com. churchalive.com. That's also kind of a link to the Alive Media Network platform and stuff. It's just one spot instead of having 15 different emails all over the place. So you can do that, and she'll get your questions. If you'd like to find out anything more about the Alive Media Network or Church Alive and its ministries, let us know. You can reach out to us. We'd love to be able to help you in any way. Miss Pat stands ready to get you information if you don't even know where to go. Maybe you've heard about these different things that you can do, and you still need some questions. Reach out. Let us know. I mean, we're here to help you. So why don't we pray, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Father, thank you so much for allowing us this time again to use the airwaves, God, as a mouthpiece for your glory. God, in the end, after all of these things, whether it's our Constitution, a voter's guide, elections, and all of these things that we're working on, in the end, God, it's your kingdom. It is your way. You're the King. You're the Lord. God, you're allowing us to be a part of the government of our lives, dear God. Lord, you're allowing us to partner, God, with you in living. And so, Lord, help us to remember that. It's your world, your kingdom, your stuff. And so, Lord, help us to honor you, to bless you, but also to be involved in the government that's all around us, dear God. We thank you, we bless you, we honor you, we ask you to bless your people as they go their way. Thank you for, Lord, allowing them to come and watch in Jesus' name. And bless Miss Pat too, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Well, God bless.
See you next time.
Your plan that's been revealed when we walk in your